What's up, everybody? It's Jesse Ziegler from Cycle News, and I'm sitting next to our road test editor, Rennie Skagesbrook. Say hi, Rennie.
Hello, everybody.
And we just got done doing a really cool shootout, 2 adventure bikes. We got the KTM 890 Adventure R, and we have Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro.
Yep, Rally Pro.
There, and we think these two bikes line up pretty closely.
Yeah.
On paper, tell me some differences. Tell me how close they are. Why should people be considering these two bikes to buy?
These are, and I guess in our book, they're probably the best two of the middleweight adventure bikes,
Right,
really.
yeah,
the kind of bikes you're going to buy that if you are really planning to go real adventure riding, this is kind of what you're going to look at. It's like a bit of a step up from something like the 701 Husky or something like that.
Yep, right.
If you want to do a bit more road miles. So they are pretty premium bikes, especially these two. When you consider that 17 odd grand, 17.1 for on the website. Interesting, 17.1 for the Triumph. Call it 17 grand out the door.
What's the KTM priced at?
KTM priced at 14,199.
So interesting that a KTM historically premium product with fancy components and high-end pricing is actually cheaper in this comparison.
It's significantly cheaper.
Right.
And that's the thing when you're buying these bikes too, is that you're buying a base. But then they further, when they get further up, you can get sort of like BMW's been doing this for years. The KTM, for example, if we go look at the specs, basically 48mm WP Explorer forks.
Yep. Full off-road fork.
Yeah, proper off-road fork. Exact WP PDS monoshock.
Yep.
Quinn Cody, our good buddy's done a lot of development work with those guys.
Yes, he has.
On the Triumph 45mm Showa forks, Showa shock, fully adjustable. So, that's got some good bits on there too. You got a 3-cylinder engine on the Triumph, 888 cc's versus the twin cylinder 889 on the KTM Adventure, where that gets its motor from the fantastic KTM 890 Duke, which I just love. Those are the very dumbed down specs.
But
like
that really starts to show that these are they're really comparable bikes.
Oh,
they're
for sure.
Really close. We got a couple mils on the suspension different in favor of KTM. They look similar. They're about the same size. They have the same wheel size.
Yep.
Like they are right there.
So we weighed them with full tanks of fuel.
Yep.
So that was 5.28 gallons for the Tiger, and it was 505.
505 pounds. Yep.
Yeah, 505 pounds, and 5.3 gallons for the KTM, weighed at
490 pounds.
490 pounds. Right. So
full gas, ready to rock. So 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Not massive difference, but
not huge, but enough to notice.
As we learned riding, it's where the weight is carried on these bikes that really shows the difference, and that's not breakthrough science. Like that's just how
just weight distribution.
That's how physics works. Yeah. So, talking about adding things on, like Adventure is about building a platform and going out and doing luggage and all that kind of stuff. These bikes are pretty well equipped stock.
Yep.
The Triumph especially.
It is.
This model puts on all the bells and whistles that you kind of want: cruise control, heated grips, heated seat.
Mm-hmm.
It has all that stuff built in. If you want to get that on the KTM, you have to buy a rally pack.
You
have to buy the individual parts and components. But if you want rally mode, which you do, because it gives you adjustable slip at the rear wheel on demand, it gives you the rally mode throttle response, it gives you the rally mode off-road ABS and all that stuff.
So you're talking at...
You have to buy a pack for that. What's that cost?
Well, 14,199 versus 17,1...
$2,000 to $3,000, $3 grand around there to play with.
$3 grand-ish difference. You can go and buy your rally pack, which gets you adjustable traction control, basically. That's $200 more. You can go and buy the tech pack. Now this is really cool. $550 for the tech pack gets you motor slip regulation. It gets you quick shifter plus up and down quick shifter.
Yep.
It gets you the rally mode, and it also gets you cruise control.
Yeah,
and that's only $550.
So to get close to what Triumph gives you with cruise control and heated grips and that kind of stuff, you drop $500 more on the KTM.
It's pretty close,
but you get a lot more performance.
Yeah,
engine control. Performance features
for sure.
That the Triumph doesn't have. It doesn't have the adjustable slip. It doesn't have a rally mode per se. It has an off-road pro mode, which is similar but different. It doesn't adjustable slip.
That's right.
So then if we want to get heated grips on the KTM, that's another
$240, $239.99.
So you're pushing $700.
Yeah,
call it $1,000 to get all this stuff put on your bike and at the dealership and good to go, and then you're really close to being the same bike.
You could basically say at around about 15 grand, you're going to have pretty much the same spec as what you're going to get on the Triumph. You get heated seats on the Triumph, which when I rode here this morning, there is nothing better, especially when it's freezing ass outside. It was fantastic.
These are the comfort features that you're going to want if you're going to drive to Alaska.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
And these bikes are completely capable of doing that. So,
also, before I forget, you get cornering ABS on the KTM. You also get it on the Triumph as well. There's 6 riding modes with Triumph that you get. You get there's lean angle sensitive traction control, but it's not like you have 9 different levels.
Yeah, you can't adjust the level of slip.
No, it's on or off.
Rally mode is adjustable. You can say, hey, give me 1 level of slip control, which is party time.
Yeah.
Or you can put it on 9 where you're like, I'm being a reasonable person.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, as soon as you get on dirt and it's on 9, it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and then you're like, I don't want to be reasonable.
No.
I want to party.
Yeah, exactly.
So you put it on 1.
Business in front, party in the back.
So bottom line on price and features and included sort of competence, what's the big price difference there? A couple grand?
Yeah, about 2 grand.
So $2,000 premium to get the Triumph. What do you get when you're riding it that's worth $2,000 more in your opinion?
It's hard to say because the Triumph is a better road bike.
Gotcha.
And I was thinking about this while I was riding. I think the reason it's a better road bike is because it was born from a road bike.
Sure.
Whereas the KTM, yes, it has the Duke motor, but it's a adventure bike from the ground up.
I think they take a little different approach over there to when they say adventure, it has to reach a different level of spec.
For sure.
At KTM. It has to be this performing off-road machine where it's a Duke for sure.
Yeah.
It rides like a Duke. It looks like a Duke. There's interchangeable Duke parts on it.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start getting off the pavement, it stops being a Duke.
Well, as soon as I remember when I rode the 790 in Morocco a couple of years ago, I was like, man, I didn't realize the bikes, like off-road, big off-road bikes could be this good.
Yeah.
With the Triumph, especially, like, because it is significantly taller, it's longer. It does feel with that suspension that it's a lot softer. It does crash to the stroke a lot faster. I tend to think that if you were to go doing long highway rides that had a few dirt roads, you'd be taking that because it's significantly more comfortable. The KTM is pretty hard edged.
Sure.
That seat isn't real comfortable.
Sure.
So anything, but as soon as you get your ass out of the seat and you're riding it like a dirt bike, it just drops the Triumph.
I would agree. I think if you're going to do touring, adventure touring, and you're going to push down more miles on the pavement and you're going to be pushing more wind, the Triumph is definitely more comfortable.
Yeah.
On the road, the power is smoother. The bike gets better the faster it goes on the road, it seems to me. Like down low, it's not the best. It's kind of herky-jerky on the EFI. Tune-in is kind of like chunky, but if you get the triple screaming and just leave it up there and start going faster and faster, it's better. Right?
That's a typical thing that those 3-cylinder motors have had forever.
So I think that's still alive there. So if you're going across country, or like I said about like going to Alaska, and you're going to go on these big long highways through Canada, and you're not going to be doing the most technical stuff, the Triumph is really comfortable. The bar ergonomics to me are weird. They're high and far out. And the tank ergonomics are a little strange because they push your legs out. Yeah. So it's kind of still carrying on that street bike mentality of Triumph, even though they know they're playing the adventure game where people stand up. Their bike is kind of built to have this like weird pushed up shoulders and strange.
The hard thing is
ergonomics for me is my biggest complaint.
Yeah. The hard thing is when you are charging best part of 17 grand and you have a bike like KTM, which is in the same category, they would have known that, no doubt. I mean, I know a lot of the guys at Triumph in the UK, like they would have seen that KTM and seen how good it was.
Sure.
So it's like they couldn't ignore that, but at the same time, they have to deal with what they've got.
Yeah, sure.
They've got a street bike platform, which to be fair, really has been all adventure bikes up until
Yeah, right.
The 790/890. They've always come off street bikes.
So this thing shines at higher speeds, higher consistent road surface, smoother stuff.
Yeah.
Where the opposite is true in the KTM, really.
Yeah.
They really show their strengths and weaknesses. The KTM, I think you'll agree, is better right when you start cracking the throttle.
Yeah.
It starts to party. It wants to get rowdy. It wants to be peppy and snappy, and it wants to be pushed. It's really rigid.
Yep.
The front end's stiff. The rear end is stiff. It likes to hit stuff.
Yep.
And if you get on the freeway and start going 85, it's kind of like, why am I out here, guys? Like, I want to go back over there and have fun.
All the reasons that you say that it's good off-road makes it not so great on-road.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as you start hitting pothole bumps at 70 mile an hour, damn, you feel it.
You do feel it. It's very rigid through the steering stem, through the bars, into your hands, your foot pegs. The bike vibrates more at a higher RPM, where the Triumph actually gets smoother, in my opinion. Yep. So you have those two big differences. But other than that, they're really similar.
Yeah, they're not far off.
There's an ergonomic change, and they both favor different ends of the speed and terrain spectrum to me.
Yeah. I got to admit, I thought the KTM was going to walk it, but having lived with the Tiger now for a few weeks, like, I really like it. Like, it's bloody nice. Even things like you got the 7-inch TFT dash. It is a little. I've always been a big fan, especially in the last few years, on how Triumph do the interface, but I'm starting to find that it's a bit too complicated on this now.
It's pretty involved. I think it's something you live with. You're going to learn the interface and the buttons and the way to get around the menu the more you have the bike, of course. The KTM, we've seen it for a couple of years now. That dash is smaller, but brighter, and you can see it in every condition. You can see it in every daylight, sunlight.
Yeah.
It's
definitely not as flashy.
It's not as flashy, but it's unbeatable in its functionality.
Yeah.
I really think that they're so close. I think the only thing I really like about the Triumph better than the KTM is the looks. I think the KTM has an identity crisis almost in its front end. It's like, I'm a rally bike, but then you're like, no, you're a street bike. And then you're like, no, I'm a race bike for off-road. And you're like, well, now you kind of look like a sport bike. So,
I think, like, again, like we say this every time, but it's true of every bike you test. It's what you want to do with the bikes.
Right.
Like, if you want to go out and all you ever want to do is go off-road, then there's no choice. You take the KTM.
It's the best choice,
Yeah. If you're going to go and do mainly road touring, you're taking the Triumph. Yep. But then, Triumph, in that regard, have almost shot themselves in the foot, because there's 4 or 5 different other models in the Tiger 900 range. I mean,
and an 850 as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like
850 Sport. So
let's have a look here.
You've got a lot of choices in the Triumph lineup. Lots of choices. Cast wheels, these wheels, that wheels. I mean, KTM does the same thing, but they'd narrow it down to 2 or 3 choices. KTM's always been a little more hyper-focused to what they do, and that shows in this bike when you ride it off-road. It's designed, I mean, the biggest improvements in that bike, obviously, it's an 890 this year. It's got more torque. It's got more horsepower. It's got more displacement. It also has more mass on the crank, so it's smoother. It's giving you that, like, really lovable, luggable torque feeling that just gives you that moving the earth feeling instead of spinning it up and trying to get it to go somewhere. ABS and traction control is unbeatable on that thing, especially for off-road. The quick shifter, actually, they both are coming with a quick shifter. And those are directly connected to how the bikes shift. And I thought that the KTM was a little chunkier than the Triumph. I thought the Triumph was really smooth.
Yeah, Triumph's bang. And that's
really good smooth.
I remember when I rode the 765 Daytona model a couple of weeks ago. I said that was the best production gearbox I've ridden in years. Just bang, bang, bang. Like, it was so good.
KTM gets a little caught in itself every now and then. Yeah. Like, it's a little paused and you're like, no, go, go, go.
Yeah, there is quite a big throw on that as well. And I guess it's a lot of that's to do with the kind of boots you're going to wear. And and you don't want to accidentally hit that lever or you didn't get it snagged or something.
Yeah, that's true. There's some play in there, right?
Yeah.
New brakes on the KTM this year. They just updated some components because they actually had a recall last year on the 790 on the brake. The suspension is the same as last year. It's good. The Triumph simply bottoms out probably I mean, in 100% more than the KTM.
Yeah.
It barely goes off-road without bottoming out.
Yeah, I mean, you're a lot better off-roader rider than I am, and I probably don't hit it quite as hard as you do. But I did notice, especially like the hard thing is when you're coming downhill, like downhill on dirt roads and you hit bumps. Yeah, that's when it really notices.
It kind of just seesaws itself into bottoming out.
Yeah,
it doesn't give itself enough hold up in the valving.
Yeah.
To like stop it from bottoming out, and then it feels like there's no bottoming control. It just clanks.
It just
hits a plastic bushing somewhere in there, and you're like, ouch.
Yeah.
But, so
it is hard work.
But that fits right into its, character. It's going to be better at the road. It's going to be better on the longer tarmac, and the KTM is going to shine off road. So really, it's your choice. Like, you're going to get better value in the KTM probably because the price is a little lower. The performance is as high or higher. Mm-hmm. And it's more versatile in its way, but you're going to give up a little bit of comfort on the road.
Yeah.
Triumph, the trade-off's just the opposite. It's a little more expensive, but man, if you're hitting highways and you're hanging out with guys that ride on the highway and that's what you're doing, or even, slick tarmac that isn't highway and
for sure,
even smooth dirt roads and stuff, it's going to be really good.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You got to be honest when you're spending that level of money, what you want. If you're just doing the occasional dirt road, the Triumph's probably the bike to take because it will do everything better than the KTM. But if you want to go off road, no chance.
It's just a tiny choice on whether you value your comfort more, or if you value more off road performance.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I mean, I personally, if it's my money, I'm taking the KTM.
Me too. Sure. That's just my bias for what I love to do on bikes. And I rode the Triumph in Morocco at the intro, and I rode it a lot here, and it's very capable. Like there's nothing wrong with it. You can do gnarly stuff on that thing. And we got plenty rowdy in Morocco on it. We got plenty rowdy here on it. But it's just when you compare them head to head, it's not where the KTM is. You can race the KTM. I've raced the KTM in off-road races, and it's really good. You're like, what am I doing on this bike? This bike weighs 500 pounds and you treat it like a dirt bike. So that's the difference. My money's on KTM just because that's where I like to be.
Yep. Yeah, I got to agree with you for sure. It's a hell of a bike, and it's just as good as the 790 or better than the 790. Which is
pretty great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. They're pretty wild bikes.
Nice. Can't wait to see what they'd come up with next.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody. That was fun today.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming into my shop studio.
Cheers.
Later.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.